It comes down more to the grain and the lenses that they use. So right here, look, we're getting that halation look. Look, we're not getting this light leaking and blooming all over his face or over these curtains. We're getting more of this halation of the sun flare coming in. All right, guys, so we need to talk real quick about diffusion filters. This is gonna be kind of a low-key video, so don't expect any fancy footage. We're gonna go over some shots using Shot Deck, and I'm gonna share some of my opinion on this. It's just my opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. You can leave a comment about why you don't agree, and we'll have a conversation about it. If you do agree, right on. Also, I don't know why my camera keeps going over there. Maybe it thinks my motorcycle gloves are eyeballs. YouTube has become this big giant thing of YouTubers always talking about how diffusion filters, how you get cinematic look. I've done a bunch of videos on diffusion filters because I love them when they're required. I would say 90% of my work has 0 diffusion filters. Oh my God, why does it keep picking up over there? Stop it. We're gonna zoom into my face a little bit more. There we go. All right, now we got a nice close-up of my face. So before I jump into showing examples of why diffusion filters aren't cinematic, I'm just going to share a little bit of my theory on why diffusion filters have become such a popular thing for indie filmmakers, well, YouTube filmmakers, and up-and-coming, like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I would put myself in that bunch. One, a lot of films, they use haze and like natural diffusion to raise the ambience of a shot. Two, this is where we start losing kind of the facts of it. A lot of people use diffusion filters to soften the digital edge on mirrorless cameras. When you turn off the sharpening, there's still sharpening happening in the internals of the camera. So it's still pumping up the sharpness of it, so it gives that digital look. A lot of films that are shot on actual film don't have diffusion on their cameras, or even if they're using vintage lenses, their lenses aren't diffusing the shot. Just to prove the fact of how diffusion can make a shot more cinematic, I have this haze in a can. I do have a hazer now, and that thing is amazing. What haze does is haze just kind of fills the room in, so whatever lights are going on, the lights will kind of bloom off of that a little bit. And again, we'll go into samples here in a second, but I'm just gonna spray some of this. Thanks, probably shouldn't spray it right in my face. So you see that just added some atmosphere to my room. So whatever grade I have on here is probably gonna look a little bit more thicker. There's gonna be more of a satin, kind of thick, colored, saturated look to it, if that makes sense. Diffusion filters do not give you this look. So what diffusion filters actually do, one, they lift the blacks up in the shot. You're killing the contrast in your shot. When you kill the contrast, you start losing color separation and saturation. You're kind of ruining your shot. That's why matte boxes are used, is because they want maximum control over the contrast. When you control the contrast, you're getting maximum quality out of that lens. So when I do use a diffusion filter, my favorite one is the Snyder Hollywood Black Magic filter. I could just put this on here like this real quick. Of all the diffusion filters I've used, this is the one that kills your contrast the least, but also puts a subtle bloom on the highlights. Now, I only use those when I want a softer look for the highlights, when I want a little bit of a glow. The Tiffin Black Pro Mist filters, those lift your blacks up, and so you're kind of adding a faded look to your shot, and that's a whole different conversation. People think that this faded, like low contrast look is cinematic. It's not. If you watch some of your favorite films that are shot on film, the blacks are crushed. They have like inky blacks. They're not like this low contrast look. That's again a whole nother video. Now let's go look at some actual like film examples so you guys can see some of your favorite movies that are Hollywood cinematic films have 0 diffusion on them. If you don't have Shot Deck, I would sign up for it ASAP. We're gonna start with digital shots. This is Sicario, shot by Roger Deakins. That's the cinematographer, if you don't know him. I'm pretty sure he shoots on ARRI. I don't know if this was the ARRI LF or not, but you can see immediately there's no diffusion on these highlights. Look at these highlights up here. This will all start making sense after we start going into more diffuse shots. Again, this is a digital look. This looks insanely cinematic, and there's no diffusion on here, guys. Let's go through the new Blade Runner. Again, Roger Deakins shot this. Look at these hard highlights behind his head right here. There's no blooming going on in here. These are all pretty like hard edges. Now they are shooting with cinema glass, obviously, and so it's beautiful hard edges. They're not like super stark or anything like that. But let's go here. This is natural diffusion going on right here. you see there's a lot of haze in the background and it's blooming out those lights. So a lot of people think that their diffusion filters are giving you this look, but they are not. What they're doing is they're just blooming out the highlights, but they're not adding all this ambient like thickness into the image. So sure, you can use them to kind of cheat for that look, but trust me, it's not getting that look. Everyone's using these diffusion filters and they're thinking that like this is the key to getting a cinematic look, and it's just not. Like it comes down to knowing how to actually light, how to actually block a scene, how to actually use color and also color grading. It's a big part of it. Look at these highlights right here. I don't see these highlights blooming. There's not like this crazy diffusion going on here. Now this is actually shot on film. This is, I think Roger Deakins shot this too. The assassination of Jesse James. Let's look at these highlights right here. There's some diffusion right here, right? But this actually is not diffusion. This is a little bit more of halation going on. I don't know what glass they used on here, but there is a softness to it. But let's look at this hand right here. Look at the jagged edge going on right here. Again, this is super cinematic shot, and there's no like crazy diffusion going on in the highlights. Now here's the place beyond the pines. I'm pretty sure most of this was shot on film. Look, there's not crazy blooming going on in here. Let's look at the highlights coming off his ear right here. No crazy blooming going on here. There is a softness to this film though. This is a lot that comes down to cinematography and the fact of how film works. You see these warm like reddish kind of orbs coming around these lights. That's halation. Halation is light actually bouncing between the layers of film. That's the best way I could try to explain it. So this is a color grade I'm using on here. Let's go and add our Dehancer plugin. Dehancer, they're not paying me for this video right here. Dehancer is this film emulation plugin. I love it when I'm trying to get a gritty look, but a lot of times, at least recently, I'm trying to get more of a cleaner look. But let's go to the halation tool here. Let's enable this. So pay attention to the highlights right here. You see when I turn it off, we have super cool, like clean highlights. And now when I turn it on, you see we have that same exact blooming look that this has. So again, your diffusion filter is not getting that look off of there. Say if you're shooting with the Sigma 8-10-35 lens, that is a very sharp lens. When you combine that with a digital camera, you're gonna get a super digital look, especially if you're shooting mirrorless, because once again, there's baked in sharpness going on in there. But look, this looks like a pretty sharp shot to me. Let's look at this one right here. Once again, this shot has a softness to it, but it doesn't have any bloom going on in it. So there's a difference between a soft lens, a milky type lens, and diffusion. Now let's start going through actually diffused shots. Magnolia is a beautifully shot film. Do you see the difference immediately? How like washed out this looks right here. Here's Keeping Up the Joneses, I believe this film is. Look how soft and washed out this look is. I'm personally not a big fan of this, but everyone that's getting diffusion filters and doing them heavily on their digital cameras thinking it looks filmic, this is what your shot looks like. Your shot does not look cinematic like this. It's getting more of this romantic washed out look. Once again, this is daylight. Look how much blooming is going on here. This, to me, yes, the shot looks, I guess, cinematic, you could say, but in my eyes and my brain, this is the cinematic that I'm going after. You see, this is diffusion going on. Look at the lamp up here. I hope you guys can start seeing the difference here. Let's look at this shot. Look at the blooming going on. That is diffusion. That's real diffusion going on. Let's look at this shot. Look at all like the blooming going on. Let's look at this one right here. More blooming. You can see all the blooming going on. This looks totally different than this. I'm going for this high quality, kind of modern, but still like timeless look. This movie's called The Master. This is an insanely beautiful, kind of weird film. I'm pretty sure this was shot on film. Do you see their lights up here? Do you see crazy diffusion going on? I don't think so. Look at the blacks. Look how crushed the blacks are. They're like these inky, thick blacks. If you shot a Tiffin Black Pearl mist filter on here, all this window light would be diffusing into this. Let's zoom into this. The contrast is looking gorgeous on here, but there's still kind of a softness to the shot for some reason. It comes down more to the grain and the lenses that they used. So right here, look, we're getting that halation look. Look, we're not getting this light leaking and blooming all over his face or over these curtains. We're getting more of this halation of the sun flare coming in. If you're throwing on heavy diffusion on your lenses thinking it looks cinematic, it doesn't. It's honestly, to me, when someone's using like heavy diffusion and they're using on everything, on takes that it shouldn't be on, it's starting to look a little bit amateur in my opinion. There is a place and time to use diffusion. Again, if you're shooting with female actress or anything like that and you want to get a softer look, you could throw on diffusion. If you want more of a vintage, or if you're trying to do like a flashback kind of scene where it's like set in the past, use diffusion because then it looks dreamy. If you're doing a dreamy look, use diffusion. If you're unhappy with how sharp your Sigma 18 and 35 looks on your mirrorless camera, maybe try a vintage lens. And you'll notice the vintage lenses, they don't bloom out their highlights, they give you more of this milky kind of texture because there's not these crazy coatings on there trying to give you like the sharpest quality that you can get. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this because, again, diffusion filters are this whole thing. I've done videos on it. Usually when I do review videos on any kind of gear, if you're wanting or needing a diffusion filter, here's my review, here's my opinion on it. I'm not telling you, oh, you need to go buy this filter. Hopefully some of you guys learned something. If you guys are hating on this, then I'm sorry. But yeah, guys, that's it. Peace.